The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs
the most civilized caveman I have ever seen.
Look who's come out of his cave.
You're listening to Cave Dweller Music and the Knuckle Draggers Extravaganza. Matt here with you. And something that we've been mentioning over the last little while is we'll be getting Jesse from regular Gonzales and a whole bunch of other projects on the show. And we're here with us this evening. Jesse, despite being, sucked of energy due to this stupid Brisbane heat, how are things tracking for you?
Things are good, man. I've been in aircon all day, so the heat hasn't hit me yet. I just got home and I've got my little portable aircon. I'll just crank that up as well. So
doing pretty well then, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, definitely shorts weather, that's for sure.
It's almost like you knew what question I was going to ask first off, but I mentioned this to you before we started recording. I've got a bit of a choose your own adventure start, and we'll take this in whatever direction you want. Cool. One question was, what makes a great shorts band? And the second question was, who is your go-to character on Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2? So,
I love this.
Which one would you like to answer first?
These are both like full episodes in themselves, man. Look, what makes a good shorts band is obviously shorts, but like embracing the shorts, willing to put get the pins out for the boys, and show off the gams. They don't have to be super short. I favor the sort of knee-length boardy style short.
Yeah.
Like Mick from Dirty Brew, he goes with like the real short, like the footy shorts. So, there's a lot of variety, a lot of options, but the important thing is a good shorts band embraces the shorts. Doesn't matter if it's hot or if it's cold, you're wearing shorts.
Does it have to be a ratio of members? What if someone's rocking like an exceptional pair of shorts? Do they then boost the pedigree of the shorts band up, or does at least, out of a three-piece band, two has to be wearing them?
I feel like if only one out of three is wearing shorts, you're not really a shorts band. You're a shorts band member, but maybe not a shorts band. Yeah, I feel like it has to be over 50% shorts representation for it to count as a shorts band.
So, and how did the shorts band bit start? Because it's something that I've been following you guys on social media. Regular Gonzales, by the way, make sure you go check him out. First and foremost, your social media game is fantastic. I think it's kind of looking at how bands would normally do it and going, nah, let's have a bit of fun with this. But how did shorts band come about? Yeah,
thanks for acknowledging the strong social media game, first of all.
The thing that got me was the Spotify image, because you get all these like really serious bands doing really serious images, and yours is of your drummer like holding a biscuit. It's so good.
Yeah. But no, the shorts thing, our mate Cam, he is a musician in Newcastle, and he plays in Drug Mother and some really cool side projects. But we put a picture up and we were wearing shorts on stage, and he said something like these bloody Queensland shorts bands, like, show some respects, get dressed properly on stage. So we just leaned into it instead of putting long pants on. I understand it's a choice. But, there have been some good shorts bands and shorts musicians in the past, and we're following that trend. It's the meme, really. The same with social media. It's all about the memes at the moment.
Dude, I went and saw Blood Incantation last night, and I got so excited that people in that crowd were wearing shorts.
Yes.
Just because, we mentioned at the start of the interview, it is stinking hot.
That's
and,
cool.
Everyone's wearing like black long sleeve shirts. A couple of guys had the battle jackets. And I would say 50% of the people there were wearing shorts. And I'm just like, thank goodness for that. There's a time and place for dressing like a true metalhead. Oh, yeah. And the middle of Brisbane summer is not fucking one of them.
No way. I feel like in Brisbane, it will never be too cold to wear shorts to a gig, but it's certainly too hot to wear long pants to a gig.
Which is like half the year, if not more.
Yeah. So I'm just staying consistent, man.
We'll actually go a bit deeper into that social media thing. It's one of the things that I really love when I see anything from regular Gonzales is while you understand the necessity to actually do the social media stuff, you kind of do it in this, we know we have to do it for the bit, you know? Like everything has like a nice kind of tongue-in-cheek flair to it. Is that just from a way to keep yourself sane?
I think so, yeah. Trying to do legit social media and marketing and promo. I've tried, and something about my brain just does not gel with the idea of like real marketing and promotion.
Because you feel like such a wanker trying to promote yourself.
Exactly, yeah. I've always had an aversion to some hip hop is really good, but that really sort of like bragging and like talking about how good you are. I've always had an aversion to that. And I feel like with promotion and marketing, I get that same vibe if you try and promote your album. My brain does not gel with the idea of self-promotion. So instead, we just put up dumb pictures of our bass player's face eating a biscuit.
I know, and it works so well. And it's not just that. It's like there was one that I saw for Audio Mackie was you basically photoshopped an RACQ thing and there was over 1 million breakdowns. It's just small stuff like that, which can be a little bit too niche for a wider audience, but the people that are going to get it are going to get it and they're going to love it.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was Paige, the drummer in Gons, and the second half of Audio Mackie. Yeah.
Let's get into Gons because it's been a project that you've been working on for how long now? Like, how long has it been for regular Gonzales?
Yeah, Gonzales is like over 10 years old, but in terms of metal and what we're doing, it's sort of late 2016-ish that we started pushing the metal stuff. We used to play rockabilly and like 50s rock and roll, but just decided one day we're all metalheads. Let's actually do what we love. So yeah, it's myself, my brother Danny, he's on bass, and Paige on drums. Paige and I have been friends since 2005. So it's a small family of shorts enthusiasts. Yeah, but we just try and make music that we think should exist that we can't find elsewhere is kind of the vibe with Gone. So yeah, it's that Dillinger-ish Every Time I Die mixed with like the Sword and Clutch and that sort of vibe. So slow, heavy, chuggy riffs, but also angular, weird time stuff. That's kind of our vibe.
And how did you find the transition from that rockabilly style to something more akin to Every Time I Die? I guess in a sense, it still has that very bluesy southern riffage. It's just taking it and putting it into something with a bit more, those mathy, choppy time signatures.
Yeah, and as I said, that sort of bluesy riffage, there probably is some, blues and rock and roll influence in there, but we were really influenced by, and me in particular, The Sword was like their album Age of Winters. Oh, the riffs on that. So good. That was like the first inspiration, and because I'd been listening to Dillinger since high school, I just can't not write stuff like that. So that was my interpretation of it. But going from rockabilly to metal, there was no transition. We were in the jam room one day and we were rehearsing our set, and after a song, we just stopped and I just go, "Do you guys want to be a metal band?" And we were like, "Yeah!" And we just immediately ditched all the music and started fresh.
And I think it's a thing that sets you guys apart, in particular within the Brisbane scene. There is, like, Malignant Aura just put out a record earlier on in the year, fantastic death doom. There's a lot of death and thrash bands, and this could be me living in a little bit of a cave, but I haven't found too many of that really groove heavy, like that really groove heavy, bordering on like old school classic 90s metalcore. It's something that really sets you guys apart in the Brisbane scene, at least.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I feel like there are bands who are doing not exactly the same as us, but in that similar vein. But yeah, that 90s metalcore sort of vibe, I feel like it's having a bit of a resurgence. Like you've got bands doing tribute sets when they're playing like Korn and Slipknot and Linkin Park and stuff. So, and then there's other bands like Strange Fiction comes to mind, and like I don't know if Old Town's still kicking. I'm not sure if they're still a thing anymore.
I wouldn't be able to say.
But yeah, Strange Fiction for sure. And I'm blanking on the name. Dead Yet. I'm really digging those guys. They're a bit thrashier, but there's definitely some groove elements to them as well. But you're right. The Brisbane metals, like we always used to call it Bris metal, where it was like thrash and Metallica heavily influenced band, and that was just like every band is like that. But yeah, there's tons of groove going around in that bluesy sort of vibe. The Dirty Brew certainly, like they bring the heavy, but they've also got those bluesy, big chunky riffs as well. So yeah, it's around, but I think you're right. It's underrepresented.
Touching on the Dirty Brew, and we're kind of going to be jumping between topics here as things come up. But you guys
about that Tony Hawk question too, by the way.
No worries, we'll get to that in a second. But you guys are playing. Is it New Year's Eve with the Dirty Brew?
It is, yeah. New Year's Eve with Dirty Brew. I haven't I'm horribly prepared, but I'll bring up the Facebook page for it. But yeah, Dirty Brew. It's at the back room. My internet's going to run slow here.
Of course.
Fist, Chaosphere, Kenoth. I don't know if you know Kenoth. They have been in the Brisbane scene for probably more than a decade. And I think I don't want to jump the gun, but I think they have said that it might be their last show. So I'm going to be up on stage with them. Fingers crossed that all works out. But yeah, tons of bands, man. Cobra Kai, Born Again Hypocrite, which is Rod. I don't know if you know Rodney, but he's in about 20 Brisbane bands. So yeah, there's a Tailor-Made Rejects as well. Like it's a pretty good lineup. Tons more as well. So,
what is the actual event for that one then?
Yeah, it's just called New Year's Eve 22 by Brewhouse Productions. I'm just looking on Facebook here. It needs a name. We have to come up with some sort of pun name.
Yeah, exactly. Like almost everything has some sort of pun name, but it seems like this one in particular kind of lacking. And I think from memory, a lot of your gigs in recent times have been at the back room. Like there was that really big 2-day festival that happened last month, and it was the last one that Mousy ran.
Fest, yep.
Yeah.
Possibly the last Shredfest, yeah.
Yeah. How was playing Shredfest? Like that was such a huge day across, a huge 2 days, really.
Yeah, it was really cool. We played Saturday Arvo around 4:00, which is not traditionally the greatest time slot, but but man, everyone was just so keen for Shreddy. Like we had a great crowd, and I ended up staying till I think it was like 1 a.m. to see like everyone had a great time. And I live like a minute's walk from the back room, so I just stumbled home at the end.
Oh, dude, sorted.
Maybe that's why we keep playing the back room, because I just walk over.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And how did you said the 4:00 crowd was pretty good. I guess it's that kind of thing with like larger festivals, you either the openers get a ton of people and everyone's still hyped up, or the guys at the end of the night get it. How did you find that sort of late afternoon slot?
It definitely peaks probably like closer to 9 or 10, but yeah, I got there at about 3 and it was already like a good crowd. The back room can be difficult to fill up because it is quite a large space, and you've got that sort of beer garden area where immediately your audience is split inside and outside. But it was great. Good turnout. I think people were a bit sad that it might be the last Shred Fest, but yeah, everyone showed up, so it was pretty consistent the whole night. And
from memory, the back room is at Chardon's, isn't it?
Yep, Chardon's Corner.
Which is kind of like, it's in a bit of a strange spot as well. Like most of the, for those of you who are listening in from out of Brisbane, most of the venues are within 5-6 Ks of each other. Basically, you got the Valley and a little bit of a loop around to Tenerife, whereas Chardon's is, what's the closest suburb from there? Like Cooper's Plains, Rockley?
Yeah, Annalee. Yeah.
So it's it's quite a way away.
It's unfortunately, I've said this for years, it's a great venue in kind of a crap location.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the Valley, you can go to King Lear's, go to Scully's, go to Tomcat, go to Jolly Rod, the Greaser. There's so many little venues you can just hop back and forth. But if there's a gig at the back room, you're going to the back room and that's where you're staying, which is great. But yeah, it does limit it a little bit in that regard. Yeah,
that's something that I mentioned Malignant Aura earlier in the interview, but I, at the time of recording, I'm going to go see them play on Saturday night. And that was something that I was contending with because like you said, if you go into a gig in the Valley, you can kind of hop between different venues and check a few things out. Whereas if you go to Chardon's, you're basically going to be hunkering down there for the night.
That's it. It's back room and then the Taco Bell if you want.
I've had Taco Bell a couple of times. It's not the best, but it also doesn't make me violently ill. So I think I was sold a false bag of goods.
American Taco Bell meme is that it's really, really gross and bad for you. But
I've never had an issue with it, hey?
It's fine. Gets the job done.
We also mentioned earlier on Audio Mackie, which is the project between you and Paige.
Yep.
Again, how did you, because you've said you've been friends forever, you went from the rockabilly of Gons to the metal of Gons, and now something a little bit more different with a bit more electronic industrial kind of elements.
Totally.
Is it the case that you two have been working together on music for so long that it's just like, all right, we've done this, what can we do next?
I think, maybe. No, Audiomaky has been going a while, so this is actually album number 4.
Holy shit, okay, I am very behind the times.
No, that's fine. It's, again, we don't market, we don't promote, nobody likes it, so it's very underground. But Audiomaky started when I met Paige. She was into electro and industrial and more hip-hop stuff, and I introduced her to metal. And then just over time, she was already producing beats and tracks in electro style.
Nice.
Already had out self-produced albums and stuff.
What was the producer tag, and what was the artist name that she went under?
You could probably find it under Lance Core, LanceKoR, Lance Core. But put out a couple of albums under that name. And then we just sort of decided, hey, what if we mix these two things together so that industrial electro sound with the sort of math metal and big heckin' riffs that I was into.
I always like that combination, especially when they incorporate noise elements into that mathy stuff, because both of them are pretty chaotic genres in and of themselves. But when you mix the two, it works. It's just like a perfect complement.
It does. It makes sense. Hey, yeah, it's like... Dillinger certainly did that in their later albums as well, mixing a lot more of that electronic sort of harsh style stuff as well. Then you've got like Frontiera. I don't think they really do industrial, but it's like if a guitar could be industrial, that's what like Frontiera would be it.
Yeah.
Yep. Probably pulling from those two sorts of styles. And again, the tag of that was just trying to make music that we hadn't heard before, trying to bring it to life.
And it seems like that is the general theme when it comes to music that you're making. You've got an idea of what it sounds like, but then it's not exactly fitting in any particular lane.
Yeah. I've found it hard to say what genre Gonz is over the years.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm calling it sludge prog. That's about the closest thing I've been able to think of. Although someone referenced scumbag rock, which I thought was really funny. It's like that sort of Nickelback sound where like all of the lyrics are like talking about drinking and like like going to jail and stuff. Like you're a scumbag, but it's rock. And I was like, maybe we can be like scum prog or something like that, because we got those sort of riffs in there sometimes as well.
I like it, but that's the thing as well. I think especially for metal fans, there is an incessant need to go. Yeah. Okay, I know I've heard this. I need to try and pigeonhole it in a genre, which is fair. I mean, I do it as well, and it kind of comes part for parcel. But yeah, trying to categorize yourself, it's kind of like trying to market yourself. You feel like a bit of a tool doing it. Yeah,
and it's tough to be. Yeah, prog, I guess, kind of because of those mathy sort of and odd time elements. But yeah, it's not mathcore. It's not really even core, I don't think. But then it's metal, but it's not just, you can't just say it's metal because it,
Exactly. Metal's like too broad and overarching to really lock anything in.
To specify a bit, because if you're a fan of metal, you might not be a fan of us by default, so in fact, I'll go further and say you probably won't be a fan of us.
So we've gone through speaking of Audio Mackie, actually, when there is a brand new album out, I saw the track teaser list. When is the new album coming out? How did you find recording it? Give us the whole spiel behind that one there.
Yeah, so Audiomaky, album number 4. I legitimately don't know how to pronounce the album title, so I've just been calling it 4Diomaky.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, so happy with that. It's recorded and mixed and mastered entirely by myself and Paige, just in a bedroom with a computer. Away you go. as you do these days. It's being released November 22nd, so it's coming up pretty soon. We've released 2 tracks so far, on which you can get on Bandcamp. We'll probably put out a not a music video, but like a YouTube visualizer or something like that, just to try and push it a bit. But that's the recording and mixing process. Is just in a bedroom for years on end. COVID slowed us down, and then just life gets in the way. So I think this album has been like 4 or 5 years coming. So it's good that it's finally being released into the wild.
The only thing is, as long as you don't call it your COVID record, I think we're fine. I was having a chat to Brad, who's from the record label Lint, and he was saying that just calling it a COVID record kind of is reminiscent. Do you remember when like all the punk bands in like the early 2000s did their Bush record?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I still like some of those early NoFX records, but if I have to listen to like 2 or 3 songs saying how fucking bad George Bush is, like, why? Like, it just doesn't hold up.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because it's relevant now, but down the track when COVID's just a distant memory, fingers crossed, it's going to be so like, who cares about what it's a COVID album? Who cares? Give us good music.
You mentioned there that your recording method is, guitar, drums, computer, plugins, and away you go.
Yeah.
Do you find that having that control and being able to do everything yourself makes it easier? Or have you encountered a few things where you sometimes can't see the forest from the trees?
Yeah, I feel like you definitely get like option paralysis, because you can just forever tweak settings, tweak options, retrack something if you're not perfectly happy with it, all that sort of thing. I really try to operate on the philosophy of there's 2 reasons you would make a choice that goes on an album. One is it's artistic integrity, and you, for yourself, you need this to be on the record. And the second thing is you're making a choice because you think it will sell, or you think other people will like it.
Yeah.
And if it comes to the point where you're making a choice and you're not really artistically, like, it might be the drum panning. Should it be drummer's perspective or audience perspective? I don't really have a passion for that. And nobody has ever not bought a record because the drums were panned left, right versus right, left. So like at that point, just make a choice and move on, like I try and operate like that. Am I making this choice for me, or am I making this choice for the audience? And does it really need to be, worried about?
Do you have a preference though? Like if gun to the head
perspective, 100%.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm 100% the same, because then like when you're air drumming along, it kind of makes sense. Like you're not trying to flip it around and play it left-handed.
Yeah. I love that you actually had an opinion on that. Thank you so much.
No, I can't remember the records, but there've been a few where I've heard them and it's the drums just sound off, and I can never work out why.
Maybe that's why.
I think that's why. The other thing that gets me as well, do you have this feeling when you're in your car and you're listening to a mix, and because you're in the car, you're automatically sitting to like the right hand? Yeah. And
I never thought of that, but you're right.
All right. So I've had this experience the other day. I think I was listening to Sparks. I'm going to say Sparks because I listen to them a lot. That's kind of, the touchstone. But I'd go from like headphones to my speakers at my desk into my car, and I was just listening to this one record on repeat. And it sounded so weird in my car, and I couldn't work out why. And then it took me like 5 to 10 minutes to realize that's because I'm like sitting on the right-hand channel. I've just thrown the whole mix out.
Yeah. I never thought of that, but you're so right. Yeah, listening in a car, you would have to like get in the back seat and sit in the middle to get the proper experience.
Which always throws me, like you hear the stories of like all these record and all these engineers and producers and everything like, no, it's only going to sound good once it sounds good in the car. And you're like, now that we're going through this, maybe it's just panned too heavily to the right. Who knows?
That's it. Well, that's the thing with the mix. Most people are listening on a phone with no headphones or anything. So again, the choices that you're making, do people care? Do you care? If not, don't worry about it.
How far down, because you mentioned there, you sometimes get option paralysis. Like how far down into the nitty gritty of the mix will you go before you reach that option of that like 2-way path of, is this really going to make much of a difference?
Yeah, it's I really try and get it right the first time, so I don't have to, fix it in the mix. It does happen sometimes, and yeah, I will go down to the single hi-hat hit sometimes, but then try and also have that perspective to be like, maybe don't worry about that so much. There's plenty of records that I love, and I can hear the mistakes, and I can tell that is a mistake, like they didn't do that on purpose. I still love the album,
What are some of those albums?
There's one I was just listening to. It's a band I don't think exists anymore. They're called The Guts, and I think the album is called Blood. Let me look it up. The Guts, and the album is called Blood. Yeah, and it's rough, and it's like bedroom recorded, but it's. Do you know the Callous Boys?
Yes,
it's like the bedroom recording Callous Boys, and I almost like it as I like it as much as the Callous Boys. Like it's just rough, and it's just a bunch of guys who put this album together. It absolutely slaps. The mix is not the best. There's mistakes. There's timing issues. Who cares? It rocks,
Definitely. Just 1 second.
Sure.
All right. That's much better. I just had to throw a light on.
Cool. No worries, man.
I felt like a serial killer recording their last monologue. But yeah, I've been really intrigued by the Callous Boys in particular, because they're doing kind of, I don't know where they're from, but there was a really big post-Brexit, like post-punk, post-metal scene that came out, like bands like Black Country New Road. The Callous Boys are a very similar style. It's an interesting mix of kind of avant-garde music with that real sort of dirty metalcore background.
Yeah. It's they're from Atlanta, Georgia. There you go. It's Paige showed me a Callous Boys track. It's Paige recommends me music a lot of the time, and we've been friends since 2005, and she still doesn't know what I like. And she'll be like, "You'll love this," and I'll be like, "This is the most boring thing I've ever heard." And then she'll post something and be like, "What about this?" And I'll be like, "This is my new love." And that definitely happened with Callous Boys. As soon as I heard them, I was like, "This is what I was looking for." Like, for me, I always go back to Dillinger Escape Plan because they were a band in my formative years, but it just sounds like where I wished Dillinger went rather than where they ended up going. Their last couple of records were fine, but not what I wanted.
I certainly didn't want Every Time I Die to disintegrate, but unfortunately that happened.
That was sad as well. And they very selfishly broke up immediately after I put a line that references Every Time I Die in one of our songs, and then they broke up. So I was like, well, great. Now that has no cultural relevance. Thanks, guys.
It was a funny thing, though. Like, there was so many conflicting stories that came out of it. Obviously, Keith has done 2 books at this stage. If you are ever looking for good books to read, the second one with the watch on the cover is better than Scale. Andy has become a wrestler. Jordan's been doing prints for God knows how long. Yeah. So it kind of, you could see them sort of going their own separate ways, but still, like, it's a shame not to see them around anymore. Yeah.
And it's just a shame to see it wasn't like an amicable split up. They weren't like, okay, now we're done. We've been gone for 20 years. This is what we've achieved. And instead it kind of blew up and turned into a shitstorm, which sucks.
It was a strange one. And we mentioned wrestling just there.
Yes, we did.
Because one thing I was going to ask, and this is something we'll get back to. I think I'll end on the Tony Hawk question. That'll be a good way to wrap it up. So if you made it this far into the interview, dear listener, and like, what the fuck, Matt? Shut up! I want to know what his favorite pro skater character is. We'll get there. You greedy bastard. But in the recent lot of promo photos that you guys have done, there was a Lucha Underground shirt.
Yeah, that was.
And I remember messaging you this as soon as I saw that. I spent, I think, a good fortnight when I first moved back to Toowoomba, almost every day after work from the radio station, went around to my friend's house, indulged in some Willie Nelson classic and just binged Lucha Underground.
Excellent.
It was... How would you describe it? Because it's like noir wrestling, but then there's also weird supernatural elements to it.
Yeah, Lucha Underground, when I first saw it, really surprised me in that, everyone obviously knows wrestling is fake, but it's a gimmick, it's a show, it's like a sitcom or like a soap opera sort of thing. And they leaned into that. So it's like wrestling meets Days of Your Lives or like something like that. But yeah, like with those supernatural elements and like the backstage segments in WWE, the backstage segments are filmed in a way that makes it seem like it's still legit,
Yeah.
It's a guy with a camera interviewing a wrestler. But the Lucha Underground backstage segments are shot and produced like a show, like a TV show.
Yeah, it's like because your folks would have done this as well. You tune in to watch like the local news and you always catch the last like fucking 5 minutes of Days of Our Lives or something like that. It is the same level of bad dramatic acting, really canned lighting, and just, exactly. That's exactly what you mean. It's just, it knows exactly what it is and it's leaning into that gimmick entirely.
Yeah, I was really interested in that. It was like, okay, so it's a fictional show, but then it's got live wrestling as well. Like the wrestling's not shot and produced like a TV show. Like if you watch Glow or something like that, which is also a show, but like the wrestling segments in that are clearly shot as like it's a TV show about wrestling.
Yeah.
Lucha Underground is like, I don't know, it's this weird hybrid where it's like it's legit wrestling. I say legit, as legit as legit wrestling gets.
Yeah.
But it is a TV show. It's really, it's hard to describe. It's this weird middle ground. It's amazing.
It was, and just how over the top, and like my favorite thing is, and it's something that Jared really, like, he sold me on the idea. I think Leslie Nielsen made, like, it was his quote. It's like, you never let the audience in on the joke. Like Lucha Underground presented itself as, at both times, a legit wrestling show and a legit like telenovela soap opera.
Totally. Yeah. Yep. That's a great way to put it.
It was so bizarre.
Yeah.
Like just stuff would happen and you kind of sitting there going, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Like WWE, like with The Undertaker, I feel like they never really knew quite what to do because he's the dead man and he does supernatural things, but he's the only one in like all of WWE.
Yeah.
Like Bray Wyatt later on, who like they would hint at maybe like voodoo powers and stuff, but it was always hinted at. Whereas in Lucha Underground, they're like, no, this man can literally transform into a dragon. He can do that. He does. It's off screen because we don't have the budget for it, but he did.
Oh man, Drago was the best. And my favorite thing about that mask as well, you know how like luchadors just have like standard cloth mask? He was like, nah man, I'm going like full drama nerd with this one.
Yeah, this takes 4 hours to apply.
But it was so good. There was just so many strange little characters in it. Like Mil Muertes was like revived from the dead after an earthquake.
Yeah.
And
again, not like a wrestler who plays a dead man. It's like, no, he is literally raised from the dead. Like that is actually his character.
So good. It was so funny.
That's so good.
And they actually had the Bronx on a couple of episodes, which I always found really weird.
They did, yeah. A Mariachi El Bronx would play songs in between matches, yeah.
Which again, it's just one of those strange crossovers that
it's perfect. It fits perfectly.
But they and something that I've been wanting to chat to you about for a while, and it works out well that you're wearing the T-shirt of what we're wanting to have a chat about.
Sure.
SCHEMA Collective. You guys have put on a few gigs. I've seen the name around. Yep. But for people like myself who might not know the entirety of SCHEMA Collective, like sort of what is it? What's the ethos? How did it get started? Give us the rundown.
Yeah, cool, man. SCHEMA Collective essentially is, at its core, a group of Brisbane bands and artists who are just trying to put on gigs and do shows for not just for ourselves, but for our friends and the bands who don't really fit into a particular scene. Yeah. That's why Gonz and Adriatic and the other bands in Schema. That's why we work with each other, because it's cool people who don't fit into those sort of pigeonholes there. But it really started to take off. We were putting on little shows at like Fat Louie's and things like that. It really started to take off when we started getting a bit of grant money, a bit of funding to be able to put on shows and pay artists and pay skateboarders. And we got funding to do a series of shows in skate parks all around Brisbane.
It's such a cool visual.
it's so good, and we were so lucky to be able to do it and to be able to pay. Like we got to pay skateboarders. We're like, come and skate at a skate park, and we'll pay you money. Like,
yeah, that's like every kid's dream.
And we would promote young bands. The youngest band we had, their bass player was 14, and the bass was like as big as him. It was great. That was like an all ages show we did at King Lear's. It was really fun. But yeah, it's just SCHEMA Collective is just that trying to just make a bit of a difference in the scene and get that community aspect going again. When we do a SCHEMA show, it's great because all the people there are my friends, and it's like family. Where it's safe, it's a good time, it's good people, it's going to be good music and all that. Next year we'll still be doing skate park shows, but we'll be doing other shows in venues and such as well. So looking to expand and branch out and just keep doing what we've been doing. But we've been really again, we got a bit of funding from bit of funding from Brisbane City Council. We work with Kids Helpline. We're trying to make a difference, make people more socially engaged. Essentially, that's the idea with SCHEMA.
You raised two interesting things there, and we'll break them one down and then we'll go to the other one as well.
Yep.
Gons and Adriatic and those bands that you mentioned not really fitting in anywhere. And again, this is something that I found having a chat to a few people, is that you can often be too metal for the punk scenes, but too punk for the metal scenes. Yep. And it's a weird sort of chasm there. Like you mentioned earlier on, the idea of Briz metal, which is very thrash and Metallica. Yep. And then you listen to a lot of the local punk bands, and no disrespect, there's some great ones coming out, but a lot of them kind of, heard Pennywise, heard NoFX, and you were basically going to try and, remake Fat Records.
Yep.
How did you find with Gons not quite fitting in that mold?
Yeah, I've always found it hard to, and that's kind of why we started SCHEMA, is because we're like, well, we don't fit on that lineup, so why even apply to play that one? That was kind of, it happened all the time.
Yeah.
We'd see a lineup or gigs that were happening, like, that's great, but we don't really fit in with those bands. Again, as you've nailed it perfectly, too metal for the punk scene, too punk for the metal scene, and like too heavy for the rock scene, but not heavy enough for the real heavy sort of metal scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of why I got really into starting SCHEMA, because we're just like, well, let's just put our own gigs on and get bands that we think are interesting to play. So as you said as well, no disrespect to any of the bands. There's tons of cool bands who are killing it, who fit a very particular genre and that style, and they've got a big following and such. But yeah, that's kind of what SCHEMA was about as well. To start off with, was to give a bit of a platform, or to build a community of weirdos.
And it starts with the all ages shows, because obviously you and I are both of an age where we would go to 18 plus shows, but I don't see too many bands doing all ages shows. Sure, you get the occasional 4ZZZ car park gig, which can be all ages. SCHEMA is another one. I know that We Set Sail played one recently at Trinity Hall in the Valley.
Oh, cool.
But you don't really see too many all ages shows around.
Yeah, I would love to see more of them. Maybe you do, and we're just too old, and we're not on socials.
That is a good point, yeah.
We did get made fun of for suggesting putting a post on Facebook, and like the young kids were like, what even is Facebook? They're on, whatever is like after TikTok, they're on that. Like, I'm on TikTok. Like I'm like 2 apps behind whatever kids are on. Like,
oh, dude, I know that pain all too well. And like, it'll even get to the point where I'm having a chat to, my siblings who are 2 years younger than me, and they're like discussing the relevance of this TikTok, and I'm just sitting there going like, like, is this fucking like updated Vine? Like, what's going on?
That right, and even just saying, "Is this updated Vine?" makes us like too old to even be involved in the conversation.
We've basically just COVID recorded ourselves. Like, we've just dated ourselves.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of kids who are like on TikTok, and if you said, "Oh, it's kind of like Vine," and they'd be like, "What is Vine?" Which is so sad.
And it does sort of change above us. But getting back to all ages shows,
yes,
as like you would have gone to like some of your first shows, which would have been all ages shows.
Yeah.
And getting involved young is a great way to like hook people into this kind of weirdo music.
Oh, absolutely. You make friends for life. You make bands. You join the scene. It's a whole culture, and it is like it'll set you up in that direction for like your whole life. It's like the bands you listen to when you were 15. You're always going to listen to those bands. The gigs you went to when you were 15. You're always going to remember those, even if it might not be the same people. That vibe and that scene, and I want to see more of it. Again, it might be happening, and I'm just not aware. And if that's the case, that's a great tragedy, and I've got to get on board. But yeah, we want to do more. We want to do more all ages shows and expand that. Man, people might dismiss like younger kids and teenagers for being immature or whatever, but man, the funniest people in the world are like high school kids.
So funny.
It's a humor that we're not used to, and it's really funny.
It's
so good.
I enjoy that it's also like the dumber the humor, and like the whole point of the conversation is, and it's something that I try and hold on to as well, because it's just really fun. Just trying to say like the dumbest shit to get a laugh out of your friends.
Yeah.
Like I miss that mentality so much.
Yep. I find myself very much influenced by younger people that I had like worked with in previous jobs and stuff. They would say something, and I'd be like, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard, and you just like said it off the cuff, didn't even think about it. I'm like, I've got to get on board this. This is great.
Do you find booking all ages shows hard? It's something that I was having a chat to Jem from Dead about, but the live music scene, I don't know whether this is just an Australian only thing, but it's so closely related to, drinking.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard to find all ages venues? Obviously, you've done the skate park a couple of times.
I think that's why we stuck to the skate parks, because we didn't have to worry about people, oh, why can't I drink, or like worrying about licensing and all the issues regarding that. We have done a couple of all ages shows at King Lear's Throne, and they're rad because they'll help us out by doing the shows, and they won't serve alcohol, or they'll have whatever arrangement they've got. It works for them. But yeah, it is harder, certainly, and you have to be a bit more creative about where you're putting on the show and what you're doing in that regard. And you're definitely right about the association with gigs and drinking. And we don't help that. We have a song called Spoonhenge. Like,
yeah, but you're of age. It's fine. It's the kids you got to worry about.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, it's one of those interesting things where you either have the shows really early in the afternoon. Like I know sometimes, geez, this is showing my age. We're just dating ourselves this entire interview. But I remember when the Hi-Fi was still kicking, I went and saw like an afternoon show of the Getaway Plan. And then later that night, they went back and did the 18 plus show.
Yeah.
Has that been something that you've seen venues are willing to offer? Like they'll do like an early afternoon set, or are they just kind of, we don't want to fuck around with this licensing?
Yeah, we did that at the Zoo a couple of years, just maybe 2018, I think, in our second SCHEMA Fest. We did that at the Zoo. We did like an afternoon, all ages, and then a night show. Some venues are, but yeah, it just ends up costing them a lot of money, and it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Venues are expensive to run.
That, and like we said, you get how much of a cut of the ticket sales, and everything else is basically relying on the bar sales of the evening.
Yep. And that's where it's so awesome with SCHEMA to get the funding, because then we don't have to worry about making the money back. The money is there to put the show on and to get that community involvement. So it's not about making money over the bar. It's about getting awareness and putting the word out there.
Do you think people are scared about getting government grants? Like they're sitting there going, fuck, this whole paperwork's like longer than 2 pages. How am I going to do it?
I think it's a combination of just not being aware that it's even possible to do.
That is true. That's another point.
And grant writing is a particular skill. You can't just bang it out on the back of a notepad and chuck it in. It is a very particular skill that you do have to be good at. Which luckily, Stoyan in SCHEMA, that's kind of his job, is he writes grant proposals. So that's where we're lucky. But yeah, it's just something you got to try, and you'll probably get rejected the first few times, but you just got to hone those skills and get feedback and there's money there. Like there is arts and community grant money that they have to spend. So why not get it to, record an album or to put on shows?
And like you said, it's the big thing of not actually knowing that this is possible.
Yeah.
A really good mate of mine is a drummer in a kids band down in Victoria, and he was saying that as soon as the arts grants went up, I think he put in like 3 or 4 different ones, and now he's touring around regional Victoria just like with all this grant stuff.
Yeah, that's it, because it can fund the tour, so you don't have to worry about sleeping in a van and not making your money back and not being able to get home. That's what the grant money's for. It's for pushing the shows because they want to. The grant money is there to promote the arts and culture, and that's what it's there for. So why not get it?
And like you said, they've basically budgeted that money out already. It's sitting there waiting for someone to write a grant for it.
100%. Yep. If you're in a band or if you put gigs on and it's hard because money, yes, I agree. Just start looking into grants. It's important that we spend the money that that's what our taxes go towards, is in portion arts and community funding. So I'd sound real old now, but I'm gonna stop. Let's
move on to something new, shall we? Kaiju Fest, that's coming up soon, right?
Hey, all right, yeah, Kaiju Fest, November 12th at Mansfield Tavern. Another one of those great venues in kind of an awkward position.
I've been to the Mansfield Tavern once, and we mentioned wrestling earlier on. I went there to see a UPW show, and it was so much fun.
I have got to tee something up with UPW. So when I started Gons, I had 2 goals. One was to play in the skate park.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. And 2 was to play a wrestling show. And the sub goal of the wrestling show is I want to be put through a table.
Isn't that like every fan's dream or something like that?
I want that to happen. I want to be, I don't know what the gimmick is. Maybe like we're playing the wrestler's entrance music and we get the bad guy's song wrong, and then he like beats me up and puts me through a table. That is a great thing.
We should let's cut this audio clip out, campaign it, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, sweet.
But yeah, Mansfield Tavern's a pretty cool venue. And talk us through what's happening with Kaiju Fest.
Yeah, it's November 12th at the Mansfield Tavern. There are 2 stages. So there's the main stage, and there's also like they've got a second room where they've got I think more of the punk and hardcore side of things are in that second room. They had to segregate us, I guess. But lots of good bands again. We're playing with Strange Fiction, who are mates of ours, and I love their music. That's always so good. You've got Void Matter, 12 Gauge Rampage.
Which is a sick name, honestly.
12 Gauge Rampage, yeah, it's great.
So I saw it on Shredfest lineup, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's such a good name.
It's awesome. I'm actually pulling double duty at Kaiju Fest. I'll be playing in Gonzales and then playing on the other stage in Adriatic.
Nice.
Which is going to kill me, but will be worth it.
Look, if you had Audio Mackie on there, you'd just write yourself off for the next couple of days.
Man, we've talked about playing a live Audio Mackie set for years. I don't think it's possible. Some of the songs change guitar tunings, not only from song to song, but mid-riff. Like the tuning is just a recorded bit. I'm like, I don't think I can. 1, nobody can drum it. Like the drums are almost intentionally written to be unplayable. And 2, you can't play guitar. So we'll just stand there with a laptop and dance to the music. That'll be our live set.
Yeah, you're just like the guy that programs the music in Sleaford Mods.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe we could just like cook a barbecue on stage, and that's our stage show.
I like this. So out of this, we've developed 2 gimmicks. It's 1, you get the heels song wrong. He puts you through a table. 2, you just plug the audio. Oh, now I've stumbled over it. The Audio Mackie set into a computer, and you just cook a barbecue on stage.
We just make lunch.
Make sure you get the early set at the next one.
We did the matinee show, yeah. But man, Kaiju Fest, it's headlined by Resurrection. They're a tribute band, and they're playing a set full of like, it's a good bookend because we were talking earlier about that 90s nu metal sort of stuff, and that's what they do. They play Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Korn. I think I've seen them once, and they opened with Spit It Out or Wait and Bleed, and then they went straight into Rollin' by Limp Bizkit.
Damn.
Brought the house down. Immediately, the whole crowd rolling, rolling, rolling. Like no irony, just pure joy.
I always wondered that with Limp Bizkit, how much of their fan base, or at least like their fan base now, is genuine joy, or is it like nostalgic irony? And I still don't know the difference.
I think it's the same as Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, man. It's not really that good, but man, I will sit down and play the heck out of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 on an original PlayStation.
Who is your go-to character then?
Originally, on the first game, it's Bucky Lasek.
Classic.
Yeah. Left, right circle, the finger flip airwalk. What a move. That is an unparalleled special trick.
I love the fact that you've got it like memorized as well shows you how much you've actually played that.
Man, I rented Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 from a Video Easy that was across the road from me when I was like, what would I be, 11 or 12? Because I played Cool Borders and I thought that was fun. And then I was like, oh, skateboarding, that's kind of like snowboarding. Let's give this a go. And yeah, changed my life.
Game over. Game over from there.
Yeah, I picked Bucky Lasek because I'm like, maybe his stats are good. I don't know. And I'm a diehard follower of Bucky Lasek now. But from, was it 2 onwards, Rodney Mullen, of course. You've got to
go. That's so good.
Yep.
I think I've only played one, like on occasion whenever I'd go to a friend's house. But
yep.
I had an old N64 that had died, and I only got it refurbished recently. And I used to be a big Steve Caballero fan.
Yeah.
Classic, right?
Absolutely.
And then I learned like a little bit more about skateboarding. I was like, who the hell is this Jamie Thomas dude?
Oh, here we go, yep.
And started playing as Jamie Thomas, and I'm like, damn, his moveset's awesome.
Yeah. Well, in the first game and the first couple of games, each character did kind of have a different moveset. I think homogenized it later on in future titles. But yeah, Tony Hawk 1. Tony Hawk 2 was definitely my jam. I played that game to death. And I had a friend who had Thrasher Skate and Destroy. So he had that game. I had Tony Hawk. So we would always, be playing.
There's a mix between the two.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is a good stage to wrap up the interview, and I want to end on one final question. Do you believe into the meme that Superman is the best track on a Pro Skater soundtrack, or do you believe the correct answer and it's actually Guerrilla Radio?
Oh, I was going to say Guerrilla Radio is a good choice. See, that's Pro Skater 2. So in terms of Pro Skater 2, that is the strongest song on that game. If you're going in terms of meme factor, I think it's Superman. In terms of just pure meme factor,
I do. A mate of mine recently got it on his PS5, I think.
Is it the 1 and 2 remake?
Remastered, yeah. And like as soon as that came on, I was like, oh man. And of course, like we were like sitting on the couch, and as soon as it came on, we're like, nah, we got to sit cross-legged on the floor. This doesn't feel right.
yeah. You've got to plug the controller in so it's wired. Like, yeah. But this might be controversial, but in terms of Pro Skater 1, the best song is not Superman. The best song is New Girl by Suicidal Tendencies.
Actually, that does go harder.
I think it's actually, if you put the disc in and you've never played the game before and you have no save, I think that's the first song that plays. I think it's like your first Tony Hawk experience with that first game is that drum fill into New Girl by Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh, dude, I love that. That's a great way to start a game.
Yeah. Warehouse, New Girl. You go down the ramp, you launch over the pipe through the secret room, and your life has changed forever.
That's it. And then it's game over from there. Dude, thank you very much for taking some time out and having a chat to us. If people wanted to get in touch, check out SCHEMA Collective, check out Audio Mackie Gonzales. Where do we go to find this? I've just given you a whole bunch of different things on Facebook, I guess.
Yeah, because we're old, Facebook is the first point of contact. SCHEMA, SCHEMA, SCHEMA Collective on Facebook and Instagram. Regular Gonzales, that's Facebook and Instagram. We do have a TikTok, and I have posted to it. And I did get 1,000 views on a post, which is amazing.
Hey!
Which I understand is like not even worth looking at, but it's exciting to me.
It's 1,000 more than I've ever got on TikTok, mate. So you're doing well.
Adriatic is Adriatic on Facebook, and I think Adriatic Sharks on Instagram because someone got there first. And Audiomachy. Strangely enough, nobody had the name Audiomachy on Facebook or Instagram already, so we got that. we got that under lock and key. So yeah, those are my weird projects. And yeah, man, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the chat.